for our business-facing products, being business users ourselves. And as you might imagine, our employees are some of the most critical that you can imagine. So by the time something gets out to millions of users, or to our Google Apps customer base, or to our partner base, it's gone through that, and we've gotten a good feedback loop going, and it's tremendously valuable, right? It's tremendously valuable, and I think one of the side effects is certainly this ability to sell it, right? I mean, often we have when we're in a direct sales situation with some of our enterprise clients, we'll be out there, and our head of sales will be there, and he'll open up his own inbox, and he'll start doing demos from his own thing. Like, this is, and you can see, and he's got, confidential emails, and you're like, wait a second, what's going on here? But he's like, look, I use this is how I use this, and then he'll have instant messages, coming in right within the email frame, and he'll be able to do video chat right from within the browser, and so, things like that it's easy to do when you're using it yourself, right? And it's easy to sell, right? And you're credible, right? For sure.
So my argument would be you could actually increase managed service revenue by using Google and letting Google be your cloud.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And as Jeff was saying, continue to move up that value chain. Yeah. Distinguish yourself. We have been winning business because we're sitting down and talking about Google Apps. Even if ultimately the Google Apps isn't the exact right fit, the fact that we're still bringing it up and talking about it with prospects is separating us from our competition.
Sure.
Example of this is Dunn Brothers Coffee. They have 97 locations across the Midwest. Sent out an RFP. We made it to the third round. It was us versus everybody else. And in the managed service space, especially in the Twin Cities, which can be very competitive, it's hard to get your messaging separated out. Because a lot of people, people even price it the same way. So to really be able to say, well, this is what makes Augusto different than everybody else, can sometimes be a challenge. But sitting down and starting to talk about the business side of it, well, where are some of your pain points? And have you thought about, using Google Apps and Google Sites? And have you thought about this? And have you thought about that? All of a sudden, light bulbs went off in their head and said, these are the guys I want to work with. Because these are the guys that are coming at it, looking to solve our problems, and looking to come out, thinking outside the box, if you will, to use a cliche. But being able to look at the business problems and come at it with a fresh perspective. Ultimately won the business for us, and we in fact did deploy Google Sites in a really cool way where all the franchises can push data up, and so corporate and the franchises can now share data and collaborate data, whereas before it was emails back and forth. They had to PDF their sales data on a daily basis and push it up, and if in the franchise space, you can almost guarantee that you're about 50 to 60% accurate as far as getting that data, and the data being timely and up to date.
Timely is the problem.
Yeah.
It's,
So when you're managing that type of an environment, you're always like, well, the data is probably me. You're always guessing. You never have the right data.
Yeah.
And so to be able to automate that and streamline it really becomes a very powerful tool.
I think you got to even. I think I'm starting to learn a little bit here. I think there's also some analytics that could actually be used inside of the Google App Stack that would say, hey, have all of the franchise actually reported in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah? I think it's a little known thing. So not just Google Sites, even Google Docs. So you can actually very simply tie Google Analytics into Google Docs, so that a scenario would be, a business owner wants to send out a notice, important information, a memo to employees. Well, in the old world, maybe they put it in a document and they email it, they attach it to an email and they send it out, and they don't know whether people are actually reading that. Google Docs world, you put that in a doc, you share that. You can share that via an email. There's a sharing interface within Google Docs. Analytics is attached to that. You know whether people are opening that, or opening that email, or reading that doc, and then you can actually that feedback loop comes back in, and it comes to the business analysis role that you mentioned before. I, as the solution provider, can then make a call. Well, we did this last week. We sent this email out, or this memo out on Monday morning, and we got this certain hit rate in terms of reads. Last month we sent it out on Wednesday afternoon after lunch, and we saw a different. And so you can roll that right into business processes.
You can tie that all together.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
I'm learning stuff too.
Yeah,
that I can immediately think of a couple scenarios where I'm going to use that.
I think you guys are really good at creating and innovating, and I think no offense, I think you really stink at getting your message out. It's sort of like you got all this good stuff, and it's that's not your fault. It's it's kind of the, it's the different innovator's dilemma. You can innovate, but it's like, well, then actually putting a spotlight on it and getting it adopted is a whole different thing.
I will say that, when in these conversations, when I'm face to face and, or different people on our channel team are talking to prospective partners, sometimes it takes, we've been talking for a while here, sometimes it takes 10, 15-minute conversation for people to have that aha, some kind of an aha moment or something they can attach to, and they can kind of, tie that into something they're doing in their business, and we get there. We get there, with people with all different backgrounds and existing businesses, but you can't have a 10, 15-minute conversation with every individual, person in the IT nation. So it's a challenge, but it's
Well, hopefully that's kind of the concept here is to help mass educate the IT nation. So great conversation. That brings us to the next thing that I want to talk about. So ConnectWise and Google are going to start actually creating integration between the products. So let me just tell you some of what we've done with ConnectWise so far. We've actually written our email connector so that you can actually use that with Gmail. So the email connector works with Gmail now. So you can run back and actually make that work. Okay? And ConnectWise partners, you certainly know what that means. That means closed loop ticketing can be done with a Gmail account. Okay, so if you're on Gmail, some partners don't have Exchange servers, and that's always been something that's held them up. So even small partners who don't have an Exchange server, all you need is a Gmail account, and you can actually use our email connector now, which is big.
It's huge.
We're going to be taking the ConnectWise calendar and scheduling. Anything you calendar or schedule in ConnectWise today goes down to your Exchange server.
Right.
And I know you guys have set up so that your Exchange server talks to your Google world and it talks to Gmail. So if you schedule in ConnectWise, we talk to your Exchange server. In your case, you've set it up so your Exchange server synchronizes with your Google calendars.
Right.
So it's ending up in your Google Calendar, but we're going to actually make it so that you can go straight to a Google Calendar as well. Now, the other thing that Jeff and I were talking about yesterday, and we got some excitement here at the Googleplex, and hopefully some support, is the ConnectWise documents and our document management system, which I'll admit isn't so great. And I haven't tried to make it great because I'm thinking I don't need to create a document management system. Someone's going to come up with a simple to use, elegant one. And it seemed to me that collaboration is what it's all about. So we talked to Google about integrating the ConnectWise documents and document management system to Google as well.
Yeah, it's just one of the another design tenet of apps and of I think Google's products in general is about being open. It's an open platform where it's open, adhere to adhere to web standards and protocols in terms of being able to get data out and push data in, and that feeds into product integrations. So, for example, on the document side, there's been actually for a couple of years now, there's been an API to be able to pull documents, to be able to upload new documents, from any other system, whether it be a line of business application, another cloud application, or a tool that people use. Same thing like integrating with spreadsheets. A common use case we've had. I don't know if this is interesting to you, but to be able to generate reports. Yeah, reporting and connectors. Be able to generate reports and have that export to Google Spreadsheet. So you've got that whole thing in the browser.
Sure.
Things like that are all are all very possible. And actually, to that point on APIs, I don't want to get away from that topic, but we were talking a little bit earlier about scripting and about kind of crafting custom solutions for clients. One of the things that we've got is we'll put a little plug. We've got our annual developers conference coming up in middle of May called Google I/O. You can Google it, just Google I/O.